Honestly, if I ever say that I should be requesting more NetGalley arcs, I shouldn't. I shouldn't. Don't listen to me. Welcome to A Little Bit of Monica. This week is turning into another arc week because I have just discovered that I have so many NetGalley arcs to get through and not enough time in the world to get through them all. So we're gonna do it by focusing specifically on all of my arcs. I accidentally acquired 4 new arcs in the past 7 days. Yeah. I love getting books from publishers. However, when I get them and they need a very quick turnaround, it's really hard to get them into my schedule, and I have like 5 books that are all coming out this week. So yeah, I gotta get to this. I am gonna try to go in order of when they are released. I have 1 book that comes out today that I am starting today, and then I have like 3 books that come out tomorrow. I am not going to get to those. It's fine. I'm not gonna even be able to start all of them on their release day, and it's fine, especially because a couple of them I literally just got in the last 3 days. But I am going to do my best to get through these arcs as quickly and efficiently as possible while still enjoying them. Now, I have already started 2 of these books this morning. The first one I started is a buddy read that I'm doing with Michelle, and we are reading Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. This book is dark, okay? It is a lot darker than I was expecting. I read The Soulmate from this author a couple months ago, and I really, really liked it, and it made me really excited for this one. It came out in April, and it's just a lot darker than the last one was. Like, there's a lot of very dark childhood trauma and child abuse going on in a foster home. This book is so far about 3 sisters who were raised in a foster home together. They are not blood sisters. They were all put into a foster home together, and we are slowly getting to see the backstory of what was going on in that home and the abuse that they were experiencing. And so we have this like flashback timeline from each of the girls' perspectives, and then we also have the present timeline also from these 3 girls' perspectives, and it is when the detective is calling them to tell them that they have demolished their foster home, like the building that they grew up in, and they found human bones underneath the house. So the detectives are asking these girls questions. Well, so far, actually, they haven't. They haven't really even talked to them yet, other than telling them this is the situation. A lot of the story so far has been the flashbacks of their childhood, and it is really, really hard to read. Like, it's very dark stuff that's going on, very manipulative, emotionally, mentally, and even physically abusive. It's a lot to read, but I think it's written very well, and I'm excited to keep going. I'm about 28% into it right now. We're going to read this over the course of 3 days, I believe, and I'm excited to see where this story is going to go, but it is very dark. But then there is a second book that I'm reading that is on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, and that is Summer at Mountjoy by Ophelia London, and I don't know how to feel about this book so far. I am 10% in, so not very far in at all, but it is about a property developer whose like family business is property development, and she decides to develop their family ranch into a dude ranch for like touristy purposes. But in order to do that, she has to hire someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to ranches. And so she ends up hiring this man who had applied for the job, and she has no idea that they knew each other in high school, but he remembers perfectly the way that she embarrassed him and did not treat him well when they were younger. It's got this kind of convoluted dynamic going on right now, and I'm not really sure where it's gonna go. So far, I love the setting because it takes place not that far from where I am. Like, I know the places they're talking about. I understand kind of the cultural and societal like dynamic that they are setting here in this story, and I really like that, and that's one of the core reasons why I'm sticking with this book. But so far, I kind of hate the writing. I don't like the way that pop culture references are slid in there for no reason. It's like purely just to make it sound relevant. And a lot of the writing sounds like it has to be zingers, it has to be one-liners, and I kind of hate it. Like, it doesn't feel natural at all to me. It feels very much like someone had an idea and like wrote a thing out that sounds very much like an old Disney Channel TV show like comedy bit where they're trying to like make every line funny. and it just does not flow for me. So I'm really struggling with this one at only 10% in. Like, I just don't really want to pick it up that much. But this book literally comes out today, so I really want to make some more progress in it, but like, I'm struggling. So we're gonna see how this goes, but I'm a little bit nervous. Beyond that, I have like 3 books that are coming out tomorrow. So I will be starting those at some point because I do want to try to go in order, but it's gonna be a long process. This is gonna be a long week because I don't have audiobooks for any of these because they're not out yet. That means reading with my eyes, and it's just like exhausting, and I have to have the mental energy for this. So this week is going to be rough, but I do love reading arcs. It's fine. With all that said, I really got to dive back into reading because I have a lot of ground to cover this week. I have no time to waste here, so I'm just going to get right to it. Okay, so I definitely did not give any updates yesterday, so I am due to let you know what my reading is looking like today. I am 60% through Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. I am loving this book. It is at least 4 to 5 stars at this point. It's so dark and twisted, like the trauma that we are reading about that these 3 main characters experience as children is like, it's very, very dark, but I think it's written so well, and the story itself is like rather short but moving very quickly. So like, I'm just having a very, very good time reading this, and I can't wait to finish it today. I will be finishing this book today for sure. So I will let you know once I finish that. But I also owe an update on the other book I was reading, which was Summer at Mount Joy by Ophelia London. I DNF'd this at 30%. I really wanted to push through to 50 so that I could like count it as like read, but I couldn't do it. I could not force myself to read it. I am truly in my era of I am not going to waste my time reading books that I'm not enjoying, and that's how I felt about this one. The only thing that kept me going and like wanting to keep reading was the setting, because it's set locally to me, and so I know the landmarks, I know the places. They literally went to a brewery that I have been to, you know, like those things that make it feel more personal to me because I know the locations and the environment. But like, the writing did not work for me. The main characters didn't really work for me. The main guy, and this is a personal preference thing in my books, but the main guy went into the military. I think he was in the army or something, and he came back with PTSD, and then he also did a bull riding career where he was injured in that, which built on the existing PTSD, and then now he is triggered very, very regularly, and one of his triggers has something to do with the girl that broke his heart in high school, and it's just like a very complicated dynamic here, and I'm just not really enjoying it. I think the PTSD is represented pretty well, and it feels like pretty realistic, but that's not something that I particularly want to be reading about. I don't really like military romance, so like the military element is not doing anything for me. I'm not enjoying the characters. I don't really root for them, and like in a romance I'm supposed to be rooting for them, right? So I ended up DNFing this because I couldn't force myself to do it. But I could see where other people could like it, I guess. It's just definitely not for me. I also just think the writing is too simplistic, and it feels like they're trying to make every line a one-liner, like a sitcom, and I was not vibing, so I put that one down. So the next book that I picked up, which I am 60% in this one as well, is Dad Camp by Evan S. Porter. I am moving pretty quickly through this one as well because it's like a 10-hour audio, I think, and it's a pretty quick book, but this is a contemporary fiction. It's not the typical thing that I am reading. I am liking it. I'm enjoying the story, but it's not super exciting. It is about a dad who signs him and his daughter up for Dad Camp, which is basically a time for fathers and daughters to go and bond and like work through issues that they might have that they might not even realize they have, but things that are keeping them from connecting a lot. And so I don't even remember their names off the top of my head. Avery and the dad. They go to this camp. Avery didn't want to go in the first place, but they go, and like the dads all meet together to talk about like issues with parenting, and the girls meet together to like bond as teenage girls, I don't know. And then they also do a lot of activities together, things that are supposed to challenge them as a parent and child duo, and like things that are supposed to allow them to open up and talk about things that might be bothering them or keeping them from connecting in any way. And I do think it's a very heartfelt kind of story, but at the same time, like, It's just not the typical thing that I am looking to read. So I definitely see the value in this. And I read a write-up from the author where he talked about how this book kind of envelops a lot of the feelings that he had as a father. And he wrote this from like a perspective of the struggles he went through and he knows of other people who have gone through. And so I understand that and I appreciate that. If I was a parent, maybe this book would mean more to me. But as of right now, like, it's a good book, but I'm not like invested in it a lot. I am going to finish it simply because it's pretty quick. I'm moving very quickly through it and it's not a hard one to listen to, but yeah, it is definitely not the most exciting thing I've read, but it is one of my arcs, which means that as soon as I finish it, I can check that off of my list. And because I plan to finish both of these books today, it means that I will have finished 3 arcs this week already, which is great for me because I still have like 4 more that I need to get through. So I will keep you updated once I have finished both of these books, hopefully later tonight, and I'll let you know what I think then. Oh my god. I just finished reading Darling Girls, and this book is getting 5 stars. This book is getting 5 stars. This was so good. I literally... I'm struggling to find the words. I've been trying to write up my like NetGalley review so I can submit that. And I just feel like my brain is going in every single direction and like slowly melting through my ears. I love this book. I loved this book and how dark it was and how twisted it was. And when I am reading thrillers, typically try to put the pieces together and like solve the mystery or like figure out where the story's going before we get there. And I have this little sense of pride whenever I like figure it out before the book reveals it. And with this one, I did not figure it out. There was a little bit that I started to put together and could have guessed. There was like 1 or 2 pieces that I can say that I figured it out. But honestly, I didn't. Like the large picture of like what was going on and like, yeah, no, I was thoroughly surprised, shocked, and impressed. I don't know how to process. This book was so good. So we're getting the perspective of the 3 sisters. Each chapter is very clearly labeled, which I really, really appreciate. We are told which perspective we're from very clearly, so we know what we're kind of getting out of that chapter. We are bouncing between past memories and also the present timeline. The present timeline being the investigation into the body that was found under the house that they had grown up in. And I think that everything was very clearly identified. You could follow the timeline very, very easily. And even if you missed the beginning of the chapter where it said before or current timeline, the setting, like you can just tell it's either them as children and like young like preteens or them as adults. It's very clear cut what that looks like. And then we are also getting a doctor's meeting, which it's funny because this is the second book in about 2 weeks that I've read that have this exact same format where you get like a regular chapter and then at the end of that chapter you get a little bit of a snippet from a doctor's report, which is Dr. Warren, and he is talking with someone about her like experiences as a child, and they're starting to like put all these pieces together, and just like that along with all of the other chapters, like it's getting this very, very vivid picture of the life that foster home had created. I just think it's so well done. Like the writing, so well done. The way that the picture is painted of what's going on and what you're figuring out is so well done. And the investigation with like the body that's found under the house, like every step of the way, you're like just drawn in more and like wanting to find out what's going on. Literally obsessed. Like I loved this from start to finish. Like up until the last page, I was like, what else is happening? Like what else could happen here? And I'm impressed. Like truly. I am in my thriller era right now, I guess, because I have said before that it's harder for thrillers to get 5 stars from me because there is a thriller formula and a lot of them follow the same thing, and so it's hard to really stand out as something that's gonna like stick in my brain for a long time. But this one I think is going to stick in my brain for a long time. And like, anyway, I'm gonna finish processing mentally so that I can move on, because I have another book I need to finish today. But how do I just jump into another book after this? I don't know. I don't know, especially when I know the next one is not going to be a 5-star read for me. Like, I just know that. I might take a little bit of a break. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe finish editing a video or something, just to give my brain some time to recover from this 5-star read so that it doesn't absolutely destroy my perspective on the next book that I'm reading. But then I will be back later because I need to tell you how I think of Dad Camp once I finish. So stay tuned for that update. I have migrated to the outside because the weather today is absolutely perfect. Other than the sun shining awkwardly through the trees, it feels beautiful outside today. I took a little bit of a walk earlier, and then I sat outside to read for just a little bit today. Not for too long because I had to make sure I was checking the phones, but it's been so nice out here. I'm just like loving this weather. So I decided to read a little bit out here, and I just finished my book. So Dad Camp is a 3-star read for me. I feel like it could be really, really good for other people, particularly men or fathers or parents in general maybe. But for me, I'm not a parent, I'm not a man, I'm not a father. So I did not relate to a lot of the things that were talked about in this book. However, I do see that it is a very cute, heartwarming story of this father who's really trying to figure out how to reconnect with his daughter, who they have like what appears to be a healthy relationship. It's not like there's anything very obviously wrong, but they just have this lack of communication, and they go to this camp, and by the end of the week, they figure out how to talk to each other. And it is really beautiful, and I really liked this, but yeah, it just like, it didn't hit hard for me because I couldn't relate to anything. Not that I have to relate to every single book, because thrillers, fantasy, things like that, it's not like I relate to those stories at all. But this one, because it was a lot slower and it was meant to be more of like an inspirational kind of story and like a deep dive into the dynamic of parenthood, it just did not resonate with me. But I can definitely see where a person who connects better would actually really like this story. I think the camp vibes were immaculate. I love a good summer camp story, summer camp setting, and this was great. They did some really fun activities, and there was a conflict with the camp at one point that did have like a bit of an interesting plot that they had to kind of fix and figure out how to keep going forward, and I did appreciate that. I think it was fun. It kept the story moving pretty well, but honestly, like, in comparison to other things that I typically read, this was kind of boring to me. I did finish the whole thing. I didn't DNF it because, again, the story itself was good. And by the point that I probably could have DNF'd it, I was already far enough that I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to see this through to the end. So I say 3 stars for me personally, but I do think it was written very well, and the message behind it is really beautiful. So I think it is a solid book, just not for me personally. But that is arc number 3 that I have finished for this week already, and now I need to pick my next one. I think I'm gonna go with The Nature of Disappearing by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is a thriller. I don't actually know the plot at all, but I'm really excited because I have liked 2 books that I have read from this author previously, so I'm very excited to give it a shot. I will update you once I learn what the plot is about and once I have some sort of thoughts to share. I just realized that I didn't check in at all today, and I started a new book, so I need to tell you about it. I am reading The Nature of Disappearing by Kimmy Cunningham Grant, and so far I am at 69% into this book, and I am enjoying it, although I will say I feel like I'm enjoying it less than I did with These Silent Woods, because this was her other thriller and kind of a similar setting. She very clearly likes to write books that are more about the outdoor life and either like living in seclusion or adventuring in the outdoors. And honestly, it's a vibe and I love it. This one is about our main character, Emlyn, who is basically like a guide for some like outdoor activities. She does like fishing guides and hiking and things like that. And she gets approached by her ex-boyfriend Tyler, who tells her that their mutual best friend is missing. And she is an influencer who is doing some like van life, camper van type of influencer videos and basically showcasing things on YouTube and Instagram. And she went missing. And so he enlists Emlyn's help to find this friend, Janessa. And so, like, from where I am currently, they have been looking for her, and they are starting to, I think, suspect some weird things that are going on. But honestly, I feel like not a lot has happened, and as I'm trying to recount the actual, like, events of this book, the first 69% of the book was literally just detailing their traipsing through the forest. They are very outdoorsy people. They like know what to do. They know how to be prepared for these things. So it's not like someone who's uncomfortable in the outdoors who's going to find someone. They are very comfortable, and so a lot of this is Emlyn tracking. Like, she's a tracker. She knows how to look for signs. And so like it's just them hiking through the woods and trying to find Janessa and Janessa's boyfriend Bush, who are like partners in this like van life thing. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the story is gonna go or like what's gonna be happening. Obviously, like there's got to be some sort of twist coming, something that's gonna change what we already know about the story. We do know that Emlyn and Tyler have a very rocky relationship. They were together for a couple of years and then he left her for dead on the side of the road. And we're getting flashbacks to their relationship kind of like from when they met and working up to eventually, I haven't found out yet, but eventually I will find out what exactly went down between them. And I'm really interested to find out what that story is, because she is trying to like battle those emotions of like, now that they're physically together on this like adventure to try to find their friend again, she's like, oh, all these emotions are coming back. And in my head I'm like, girl, I don't know what happened to you, but from the very little information I've gotten, I can't imagine that you would want to go back to this man. But also he's like the perfect guy. It's just a lot, and I'm having some very conflicted feelings on this book. One, I wanted to like it because I like this author and I love the idea, like the premise behind the story. Super interesting. I love an outdoor theme, the hiking, the like natural danger, I really love. But it feels very slow, like nothing has been happening. Like literally nothing has been happening. And now I have 30% left for the rest of the story to take place. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I feel like this book should be shorter, if anything. And like there's a part of me that says like I could DNF it probably, but I am curious enough to find out what happened to Emlyn that she got left on the side of the road for dead, and why she would get back with this guy, and like what is really happening with this missing friend, and like is she really missing, is she not? That's kind of what they're trying to discover. And like it's just, I'm curious, so I'm gonna finish it. But like this is a slow one. This is a slower thriller for sure. But I am hoping to finish this tonight. If I don't finish it tonight, I will certainly be finishing it tomorrow. So I will be sure to keep you updated when I have finished the book. It is another beautiful day outside. I think it might rain this afternoon. I don't really know. So I am taking advantage of this beautiful weather. So now I am due to update you on what I'm working on now. So I did manage to finish my book last night, and that was The Nature of Disappearing. I am giving this book 3 stars. I liked it, I think, but honestly, I was just pushing through it at the end. I wanted to know what was happening, but not enough to like really feel like I cared all that much. I feel like this was a very slow moving story, and I just didn't love that. I don't want to say I was bored, but there were parts where I was bored. Like literally the majority of the book was just them like hiking through the woods, which I love a good hike. I love an outdoor story. I love Kimmy Cunningham Grant's writing, but like it's very lyrical and descriptive. She has some very vivid descriptive terminology that she uses. And one of the elements of the main character is that she memorized a lot of the dictionary, and so she knows words and she uses very descriptive words, and I thought that was very creative, but it did slow down the story because it was focusing more on like the actual sentence structure and making sure that the words that were being used were fancy. And yeah, it just like slowed the plot down for me, so I was kind of bored by the end. I also don't really love the way that the story turned. I feel like it took this weird turn into like criminal territory, and I just didn't love it. I think the twist, I love a twist that you, once you find out that it's the twist, you like can kind of backtrack and figure out where the signs were that this was the case. And I feel like for a big part of this story, I could not back trace where I would have figured out that this was what was happening. So I don't love that. There were elements that I could have done that for, but like it just, I don't know, something about it did not work for me. There was a very large drug element, drug addiction, drug dealing, things like that, and I don't think I had any issues with that as the plot, but I just feel like the way it was weaved in, I don't know, something about the second half of this book just like fell off for me. So not super impressed, super happy, but it's fine. I'm done with that one, which means another checkbox on my NetGalley ARC list. So next up, I am reading That Night in the Library by Eva Jurczyk. This is a thriller about a bunch of people. I think there's like 6 or 7 people that are going to get locked in the library overnight. Someone's going to die, and then they have to figure out who the murderer is and what's going on. But they were like in the basement of this library, obviously outside of normal hours. They're not supposed to be there, and they were going to do some sort of ritual, like a Greek inspired ritual. So very interesting things about to happen, but this is a pretty short book. I think it's just like over 200 pages, 230 maybe, and the audio is relatively short as well. So this is going to be a pretty quick read, and I'm very excited to be jumping into this because I am making great progress this week. I will check back in once I have made some progress and have some things to share. I just finished the book, and it is starting to rain. Right now it's like very spotty, so like it's fine, but I'm gonna have to go inside after this. But I did want to update on finishing That Night in the Library, and I'm gonna give this 3 stars, I think, maybe 3.5, but honestly I was pretty bored through a lot of this. I don't think it was that interesting of a murder mystery type of story, and that's kind of the vibe it ended up being throughout the rest of the book, was a murder mystery. You know, bodies are dropping and they're trying to figure out who the killer is, so everybody is fighting with each other, and it's like this whole mess. And honestly, like, maybe it all went over my head, but I don't understand the relevance of, like, the reason they were down there was to recreate a Greek ritual, even though none of them actually knew what they were supposed to be doing for the ritual in the first place. And things started going wrong, and I don't know, it just felt very messy and scattered, and by the end, like, I don't know, and quite frankly I don't care that much. I really was just listening to get through it towards the end. I probably could have DNF'd. I feel like I've been saying that a lot this week, that I could have DNF'd and not really cared, but it's true. This one was just meh. So I'm glad to be done with it. I do still have at least 1 to 2 more arcs that I wanted to try to get through this weekend, so I guess I'm gonna just jump into the next one. I don't really know what I'm gonna pick though. I have 2 options. I'll let you know once I make a decision, but for now I guess I'm gonna pack up and head inside because I feel like it's about to start raining harder, and I don't want to be caught out here with my Kindle and my phone and everything, so I'll check in with you later. I have one update and one update only, and that is that I finished another book today in one day, practically in one sitting, although technically I started the book on my couch and I finished it in my lawn chair out front of my house because the weather today is so perfect. In the sun, it's like kind of hot. I was a little bit warm earlier today, but in the shade, it's like kind of chilly because the breeze is blowing, but like it is so beautiful outside. I could not resist the temptation to come outside and read, and I managed to read my entire arc today, and it means that I am only 2 arcs behind for this entire month, and that is counting the 4 additional arcs that I received in the last 2 weeks that I had to like suddenly add to my list. So this week has been incredibly successful for me, but the book that I just finished reading is One Night Stand Ever After by Amanda Usen, and honestly, this book, I was very, very nervous for how this one was gonna go. I'm gonna be honest, the cover, I don't love it at all. I don't like the cover. It set me up to be very nervous for what was gonna happen. It's just essentially smut with nothing else. So this is not the type of thing I typically like to read, but I came out of this book actually having a pretty decent time. I'm still debating on whether to go with 3 or 4 stars. Like, I'm definitely on like a 3.5 rating, but like to rate it up or down, I'm really not sure what to do because this book took me on a bit of a roller coaster as far as my feelings. At the beginning, they are getting it on in a supply closet in the first 10% of the book. And this is only like 250 pages or less, so it's like not a long book. And they are getting at it real quick. But it's obviously a setup of like a one-night stand. But these 2 people knew each other when they were younger, and she had a crush on him and he thought she was annoying. They both end up going back home and are helping their respective grandmothers with different tasks. So like he is someone who helps make like businesses improve and helps them build their business better, and she is going to help her grandmother's diner. She becomes the head chef at this diner, but the 2 of them hit it off so well during their one-night stand that as soon as they saw each other in this hometown at the diner again, they were like, I know we said 1 time, but what if it was 1 more time and 1 time after that? So they set up this rule that was they were gonna, hook up as much as they wanted and have a good time for the next like month, because that's all the longer that they plan to be there. And so they have this very like free-flowing kind of arrangement that they're just gonna have fun together and it's fine, but they can't tell her brother because her brother does not want them together because they all grew up together, and yeah, her brother's like firmly against it, so they're sneaking around this whole time. And this is kind of the overview of the entire book. It is going to be a little bit more dramatic. There's going to be obviously falling for each other when they don't expect to, kind of thing. But ultimately, what I can say about this book to sum it all up is that this is a Hallmark movie, but like smothered in smut. Like, I'm just talking like they are doing it everywhere at every opportunity, and like it happens a lot, but also the scenes are easy enough to skip if that's not something you really care to read in detail. Super quick, but it happens a lot. This is part of a series, and I have not read the other 2 books in the series. This is book 3, but our main character in this book and in the other 2 books as well, they are in a like burlesque dancing group. And so a big theme of this one is dancing and being creative, and so our main character is a professional dancer, and she is also training to be a Vegas showgirl, and so like there's this really strong vibe. But basically these 2 characters are very sex positive. They are very confident in themselves, and I really liked that kind of a vibe. This book is not one that I would normally think I would enjoy or pick up, but ultimately I think it was done tastefully. It was written well, and I did not have any issues where like I think my problem with some of these books is there's usually a point where I read a line or a scene that turns me off so much that like it's offensive, or like it's just written so poorly that it makes me not want to read a single other sentence from the book. And I never had that feeling with this one. So like I think it was done really well, and I don't know, I had a good time with it. Here's the thing, I'm not going to think about this book ever again. Like I'm done reading it, and I'm not going to think about it again. And for me, that feels like it should be 3 stars. But also I want to give this book its unfair praise because, like, I've read books similar to this and hated what they've done, and I didn't hate it in this one. So I'm so conflicted with what to do. Like, it's very easily a 3.5-star rating for me. I liked it. I didn't love it. I don't know. The jury is still out on whether or not this is going to get a 3 or 4 star. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. Do I start another arc? I think I will try to jump into The Eyes of the Best Part, because this one is really, really highly anticipated for me, and I'm really excited to get to it. So I think that's my plan. So now I'm just going to jump into the next book, and I will keep you updated. So I know I said I was going to read one more arc this week. However, I decided to kind of skip this one for now, and I'm going to come back to it in the future. I do have a beach trip coming up, and I am going to save this last arc for a Kindle on the beach type of vibe. So this is going to wrap up my NetGalley arc week. I have actually been really enjoying doing this once a month and just kind of knocking out as many arcs as I possibly can to make sure I'm keeping up with all of the many NetGalley arcs that I have and continue to request and receive and never turn around. So this has been really good at keeping me on track. This has been so much fun, and I feel so accomplished having gotten through all of them. So that is going to be all for this week, but these are arcs, so I want to know if you're excited for them. I want to hear your thoughts. Some of them have already come out, some of them are coming out in the near future. Let me know if you've read them yet, or if you are looking forward to reading them. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Please share those with me in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe if you liked this video and you want to see more from me. I have some very exciting vlogs coming up, and I will also be continuing my arc journey throughout the coming months, because this has been a great way at keeping me updated to make sure I'm turning around the arcs when I need to be. So stay tuned for more of these. But that is all I've got for today. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I really hope that I will see you in the next one. Bye!